Gentlemen, it's good to have you again. It's been a while.
What's up?
How are you doing?
What's up?
Let's start with Maurice. Maurice, how are you doing, man?
No, I'm doing good things, man. Yeah.
There's always much to say, but
At
don't
this
worry.
point, yeah.
X-Men,
No, I'm great. Obviously, it's been some time.
yeah.
You can blame it on the not on the liquor, but on load shedding. We don't blame it on the alcohol, but
Yeah.
on load shedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we here now.
Yeah.
Well, for some that may not know, because we are international, so we've got load shedding issues here in South Africa. It's crazy how you always have to say that in meetings now. Say, oh well, this is our reality here in South Africa. Anywho,
How are you doing, Barang?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing better than good enough. I have no complaints. As you guys may well know, I've had the honor to go home. Obviously not under the best circumstances, but it was still a very fun experience nonetheless. So, which really made me think just deeply about home. So, hence, I want us to talk about home today and what home really means to each one of us, because I don't think it's a universal thing, right? As we purport it to be. I think it's very much personal. So let me just enlarge on this topic, right? So I will put it in a question format. Is home the point or place of origin, or is home anywhere you choose it to be? It could be overseas, that's where you choose your home to be, or is home where you were born and raised, and that's the end of it?
I think it's optional, and I think it differs from person to person, because some people feel that home is where you were born and where you grew up. And
What about you? What does home mean to you? How would you define home?
I'm kind of divided, because where I grew up is home, but then also where certain people are is also home. And that could be, in a shanty, it could be in a mansion, it could be where I was born, it could be where I grew up. It's different, but as long as there's those certain people, that is classified as home to me.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting take. X-Men, what comes to mind when you actually think about home? What is home to you?
Home is it's just basically being surrounded by familiar faces. Family, friends. Yeah, and yeah, things that obviously brings back memories. I mean, growing up, you've had good memories, you've done a lot of things, and I mean, going back to a place where you done all these things, is obviously quite good, because now you get to interact with people on another level. At times, many times when you leave your home, it possibly means that you going out there to start your life.
Yeah.
Right. But when you start your life, you know that it's the same, like it's the same like when you start your life, and you have problems and you have your parents. You can still go to your parents for advice,
Yeah.
or a shoulder to cry on. And that is what home is. It's a place of safety, a place of comfort for some people. Right.
Right. No, that's a very interesting take as well, X-Men. But I think you also brought up very interesting things, which opens an opportunity for a segue. What happens then if home is no longer the same? Like I heard a lot of stuff here, like a place of comfort, a safe place, a place where you can always go back to if you wanna reignite those childhood memories that have since been long forgotten. What happens if like the conditions are no longer the same? Like for instance, the people that you grew up with are no longer the same, right? And the environment itself is no longer safe, right? And home just doesn't feel like the home you were kind of used to while you were growing up in it. Do you still feel that pull or that obligation that this is my home? I have to revive it. I have to keep coming back no matter what, no matter the circumstances, no matter the new conditions now that may be like sway me away from actually like.
Well, I look at it this way, you also still need to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And if it no longer suits you, then I mean, it's not necessary for you to go back. However, if you have family there,
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that would draw you back to your home, right? Whereas if you didn't have any family, I don't think that you would make that effort to go back. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So obviously there is something that,
hypothetically speaking, right? Let's create a scenario here. Let's say you had your parents, right? And you guys grew up there, right? And then you lost your parents, right? And then you moved to a different city to basically like enhance yourself, your life, to seek whatever it is that you actually seek for. And now you are old, and you've worked hard, you've accomplished some of the stuff that you wanted to accomplish, and then there's home, right? Where you grew up, and then you still have family, right? But not your mom and your father, right? And then your family says to you, why don't you continue from where your parents left? Which is, if your parents had started building your home, right? And due to unforeseen circumstances, they couldn't finish it, right? Now, there's an obligation for you to go and finish it, right? And to you look at this and then you suddenly think, what am I doing it for? Because most of the time I'm in this city, right? And if I have to build a home, who's gonna be in it if I'm not gonna be there anyways? Because my understanding is, if you have to go back and build the sort of home that you'd want for your parents, they have to be present as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I was about to ask, like, when you're saying you're building a home, I don't know, for me personally, a home is not a building. So that's
Yes.
why I wanted to just maybe, look into that a little bit more. Like for me, that's you building a house, especially since you're not there. There's no one else that's there. It's a building that you're putting up. Whereas a home, like I said, to me, is wherever there's a certain amount of people, like
Yes.
certain like X-Men also mentioned. So it is not defined by the building, but there's other.
Or the point of origin.
Yes, the
Right.
point of origin or the building.
Or the building.
Yeah.
Yes. I fully agree. Now, this is very, very common amongst us Black people, African people. Let me put it that way. You often hear that when we start working, the very first thing that we need to do is we need to look back home, right? And then we need to build back home, right? Either for our parents or to actually build a family house, a family home, basically, that has been a dream from the previous regime or the previous generation. So basically, our predecessors couldn't get it anywhere. So that responsibility is now going to rest on your shoulders because presumptuously you have the means, right? Now, my question is, what happens if you assess the situation? Let's say the intention is there. You'd like to actually fulfill everyone's dream, but the actual location is a problem for you, right? You don't mind saying that, okay, well, let's build a family home, right? Something that we can always go back to it whenever we want to reunite during those times, but not there. And the argument is it has to be there because this is originally home. This is where you were born and bred, right? Now, as Black people, you must understand that it's a big problem for us, right? Because it's something that's inevitable. You face it either way. Now, what's worrying about this is, again, I look at, this is obviously a generic view. I look at the work that's required, right, to get this done. And then I look at where we are, because we live, that's what, okay, you guys are very fortunate because you both are from here, right? We leave our homes basically to come and work in different parts of South Africa or of Africa or of the world for that matter. But then we are still told home is that one spot. And I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that because I believe home is anywhere where you choose. Then the people that you put in that home will then make it a home, not a point, right? And that is why I was asking you guys, what happens if then, from an ancestral perspective, right? If then the ancestors are saying, no, that's the spot, nowhere else, it has to be there. What happens then if that place, that spot is no longer safe? We achieve their dream and everything they want, but it's not conducive to what we want. It's not favorable anymore. It's not what it used to be.
Yeah, another thing is on that point. So let's say you have the means of this generation to build the house which would be the home, thereafter. So you then what? Who takes the baton from you? Because I don't think that you'll be able to do it. You get what I'm saying? You'll establish it, or you'll do everything in your means to complete it. And let's say you decide that your life, you would like to move to another country.
Yes.
Or, God forbid, something happened to you and you're no longer here. You get what I'm saying? What happens? So the same people that actually says, build this home or this house so that it can be a home for the family. What happens to the upkeep of that home? Would it still be a home after 5-10 years? Or would it be a case of family fighting over the building and forgetting the intention to make it a home?
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? And that's what happens. What happens? Another question is, if you're saying that the environment, we know our environments where we come from, the environment is not conducive. So what happens in that case where you have elders say, no, you need to build a house here so that it can be a home, but you see something different, say that it's not, you see that it's not conducive.
Yes.
And you have little brothers or cousins or whatever now that needs to that's now been raised in that home or that house, obviously the elders are not looking at the environment around them
Yes.
that can actually suck them in, you know,
Correct.
and hinders them from growth, hinders them from seeing the world out there. So you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a very important point because
Big one.
when I look at it, and I think we spoke about it before, that I would like to consider myself one day a citizen of the world. You know, where you're not confined to a geographic point.
Yeah.
You know, you are, you just like open arms welcome people, and you would like people to welcome you anywhere you go. You know,
You're not welcome in Morocco.
that's what you say. You know, there's a song that was made about me. Papa was a rolling stone.
Wherever he went, that's where
where ladies haters is home. Yeah.
that's where he's home. Yeah.
So I would like to believe that, you know, as a human race, we should look at it that way, and we break out from this customs that we have.
Yes.
That ties us to a particular location. I'm not saying that where you grew up should not be considered home, because there are certain cases where the environment is conducive, and it just brings this level of peace and emotion in a good way. You know, where you think back of difficulties, you think back of you know, good times that you had experienced at that, you know, particular place. But then to both your guys' points, what if Earth becomes inhabitable? So you would want me to build, as ancestors, you'd want me to build a home in a place that is now no longer inhabitable for any species. Like, it is erupting from within. The Earth is now basically, you know, deteriorating.
Yes.
We've been hit by comets left, right, and center, meteors left, right, and center. Everybody is relocating to Mars, as an example. What does this mean now? Because some old person told me that this is where I need to be building. I need to stay and just like die here because this is what someone said to me. Like, we are tied and we are attached to an instruction that is being passed down by a person that doesn't understand what's happening currently. Because the whole complexion of life is different to at the time that we had grown up, and is different to the time that that plan or that idea came to pass, where they're like, you know what, this is my dream land where I see things should happen. And what if it was like just next to a riverbed, or a place that was not a riverbed, now it became a riverbed, because with glaciers melting and all that stuff, water is now coming from places that didn't exist before. So all of a sudden you're now flooded. Must you still continue living there?
Yeah, no, that's a very valid point. Now, here's my theory, right? Old people, right? Old people, especially the ones who actually come from home, where we come from, right? If you don't have a house, let's call it a house now and not a home, right? If you don't have a house home, you are playing. You hear me? You are not doing anything. You've been working for years, but we don't see anything here. Right? Okay, I hear you, but what about where I am? And here's the thing. This is my question. And I can tell you right now, 95% of African people who either have just started working or have been working, they face that in their lives. What about home, where you come from? Now, our parents, I'll tell you this much. If our parents knew about if they knew what we know about now, which is it's not about the place, it's about the location where you build, right? Do you think they would still confine themselves to where they were born?
No.
Exactly my point. Or they would actually seek better lands.
Yeah.
Now, we have a generation that's scared to challenge that, right? So what they do is they put themselves under pressure. You made a very good point, and I want to drill down to this point because it's very important. Again, ancestors. If ancestors want what's best for us, right? They know Chicago is a very dangerous place where like kids can die at any given point, right?
Shy town, stand up.
But they still want you to build a home there. Does that make sense? Why would you want to place my life in great danger so I can fulfill your cause?
And that brings the
If
question.
you truly care about me.
if you're saying that, remember you also mentioned something about parents not being able to fulfill that or not being
Yes.
able to complete that, then we need to find out what was the reason. Because no, honestly, because
True.
why do you start something that you cannot complete?
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
There's
So-
varying degrees as to why X.
Yeah.
One could be obviously like we I mean we know like how things used to be back then, right?
Mhm.
So like most parents didn't really have they started like on a back foot,
Yeah.
right? So by the time that they wanted to fulfill their dreams, like vast majority of their years had been consumed, right? Trying to get their freedom to what it is now. So that's understandable. But now my question is like, if that is being passed on from one generation to the next, aren't we also going to be a generation that's dependent upon our kids to fulfill our own dreams because we're fulfilling other people's dreams?
Exactly.
It is. It definitely is, because what are we? What is a? What would we like to achieve? Is to be independent,
Yes.
isn't it? And not
Yes.
dependent on something, on someone. And another thing is when given a task or when you put your mind to something, you would like to complete it,
Mm.
right? That's an
100.
achievement,
Mm.
right? So if it goes on like that for generations and you haven't completed it, I mean, the joys of seeing something complete, that is something good. You know, that's your hard-earned work or cash or whatever you put into that. You would want to see. Whereas you leave it incomplete, right? For someone else to do it. And that person that does it, they can either complete it or they can just give it up like that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, we've seen, like, let's say there's a saying, or we've seen examples where kids inherit money or whatever it is. And once they get that money, they squander it. Why? And not everyone, but we've seen a lot of people, or we've heard a lot of people, they squander the money. Why? Because they haven't worked for it. You get what I'm saying? But if you've worked for something and you put in the effort, I'm sure you'll definitely look
Value.
after it, value it.
True.
Right.
Now, here's my question on that, right? On everything that's being said.
Yeah.
Do we assign wisdom to age?
I don't.
Because basically, the instruction is coming from the elders,
Yes.
who are seen to be
wise,
and therefore we need to follow in that instruction.
Yes.
So the question then is, are we going to continue that way of life, or are we going to sit down as a family and be like, well, this is how things may have been in your time, which we appreciate the insight, because we understand that there is a level of wisdom from everyone.
Yes.
Bear in
Correct.
mind, though, that technology
Yes.
is completely different today.
100.
And we have a lot of things at our fingertips that some of the older generation will not know. There's this apps that you can see the statistics of crime.
Yes.
How the market performed in that area when you buy and sell. Because ultimately, when you buying a property, well, the intention is not for it to, for you to sell it, but you
Yes.
also don't want it to depreciate where it's valued at zero.
Yes.
So you'd want to have purchased a property in an area that will blossom. You also want to make sure, like X-Men was mentioning, that there's good schools in the vicinity. There's facilities, like skateboarding, swimming pools, and different things that maintain tennis courts and all that type of stuff. I mean, if we look at some of the guys now, like Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton, and some of these guys, they kind of had access to some extent to karting and some facilities. Hence, they're able to now go forward and become world champions or become F1 drivers. People in certain areas may not even know what is F1. They'll maybe think it's Formula One is a hotel because they've seen it like somewhere by passing,
Yeah.
So that level of, there's a new way of doing things, and sitting down with the family, and also not being arrogant, because I know that the younger generation now, they attacking the older generation.
Yeah.
They're like, uncle, you don't know what you're talking about. And I think that is a wrong approach. I think that it should be a mutual.
There should be an open dialogue.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then if your intention is that you want to build here, let's understand, why do you want to build here? Is there oil reserves? Is there gold? Is there diamonds? What is it that you want? If it's just because, well,
To
someone
honor the
grew up
family
in-
name so
Nah,
that at
guys.
least the community doesn't see us as useless. They can say we've got a very beautiful home and we are working. It's not enough that you've got your own place wherever you work. So because people can't see it, and so you'll be judged by what people see, basically. So like, let's see if we can have something that's going to put everyone away that's been talking badly, smirk about you, like, you see, they're working but they're not building. So like, we tend to worry about those things. But I think you made a very good point. So if you can allow me to interject.
Please do.
Yes. So I've got a question then. Again, I'm gonna pose it. I'm gonna go back to ancestors, right? You spoke about wisdom, right? And yes, there is an element of conventional wisdom that comes from older people. Most of them have experienced, right? They have walked the journey, and they have their failures basically to relay back to us and say, listen, my child, I know what it's like to be there because I have been myself and I failed, right? And this is how I failed. You can take something from that person, right? So you can listen. And also, there is a challenge. As a person, you've learned what you've learned, right? You've walked your journey. When you try and challenge their view, right? You are not connected to your roots, or that you don't understand how ancestors work. But then ancestors cannot defy logic, right? They cannot defy logic. Let's just think about it for a second, which is something that I always say. Okay, do our ancestors want us to stop living our lives, right? Fulfill their desires. By the way, they're no longer here, right? Fulfill their desires, right? While we pause our lives. By the way, you're meant to live your life, right? But now you're supposed to set your life aside, right? Because your ancestors said, you did not build a bridge for me. I've always wanted a bridge. So now you must put everything aside. You had plans to have kids at a specific age. You put all of that aside so that you can fulfill an ancestor's cause, an ancestor who is not here. Are they selfish? Do they want what's best for us, or are they just selfish? Right? So if you think about these things from a logical point of view, do they actually make sense? Now, my point of departure when it comes to, as you said, Maurice, older people, or the old generation. The old generation does not want to open up to the new ideas, or the new ways, the new methods. Life is not set out in the way that it was back in the day. It's changed now a million times. Do they know about the economic times we're in? For instance, inflation. Inflation is high. I want you to build a house by this time. Okay, what about inflation? So if you want me to build a house in 2 years and we're still facing the economic crisis that we're facing, what does it mean for my pocket, right? It means I'll be living way above my means.
Yeah.
I would have fulfilled something. And mind you, by the way, when you're building a family home, you're not generating any revenue or profit from it. So it's not, in fact, an investment. It's
A write-off, not a write-off, but something that you need to depart
it's a
with.
liability,
Yeah.
right? Unless it could be converted into something that generates revenue or that brings income. But otherwise, it will always remain a liability. So all that for what? To what end? What are we trying to achieve? All that what? And yes, there is also a saying that we're not gonna die in these cities. We always gonna go back home where we started. But do we really have to?
Yeah, I don't think so, man. Like, but again, I don't come from that type of environment where that's a thing. So
Yeah.
I also don't want to be, having a biased opinion based on how we operate. Like I need to understand from what, like, the intentions behind all of that. Like, what happens sometimes?
Yeah.
You find that it's miscommunication.
Yes.
Because who told you that is what the ancestor said? Is it the ancestor themselves, or is it someone that told you this is the information that's been passed down?
Of course,
from
there's a middleman.
You see?
So there's a middleman. Again, like but then it's very universal, right?
Outsurance. It's cut out the middleman.
It's mind you, like this is very universal, like across African people, right? Like it's something I've never understood. And like I still maintain that I have no vested interest in understanding it any more than I know of it, right? I'm happy that I'm limited and I have no desire to further my limitations.
What happens if you're speaking about the middleman, right? It could be anyone in the family, let's say elder or whatever,
Yeah.
right? What happens if, and I think I've heard and I've seen stories like that as well, where the middleman is like manipulate the situation in order
for self-gain.
For self-gain, for you to push his agenda or her agenda. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So what happens in that case? You get
that's exactly what I was leaning
because
to.
now you'll find out that they'll manipulate you into saying, no, you have to do this, I got this message and that and this and that. And then it happens, and then what happened? The person occupies the place on their own, or they sell the place.
Yeah, because you're not there. You're in the city.
So you don't know what's happening there. And then the people that are actually supposed to be in the home, in the house, are probably scattered, or they also decided to move on with their lives and start families and stuff. You get what I'm saying? And now this person is the custodian of the house.
Yes.
And after so many years, let's say one of you, you'd like to go back to visit or whatever, and then this person says, no, where have you been all this time? I've been looking after this place, I've been doing that, I've been doing that,
That's so true. And also the crazy thing, what people don't actually understand, right? The value of your home or your house is not based upon how beautiful it looks, right? There's a lot of things that go into it. You can build a mansion around shacks, right? I bet you won't even get as close as much as you would have actually valued that property, that mansion of yours, because they will tell you that, hey, but your surroundings, and they will be making valid points as well. So like a lot of people actually don't want to like reevaluate the actual location. And yes, our parents did not have a choice. If they had a choice, they could have literally explored greater lands, safer lands, much better lands. And we have that option now. We have that free will. We can go just about anywhere, right, where we choose. Um, if if our ancestors are not happy because we've worked so hard to be able to choose, then I would have to question their intentions with us.
And the thing is, a home. Coming back, you made the point, and I think we've all
I'm
made
gonna be
that
in
point.
trouble.
Exactly.
I think we've all made that point. A home is where the people are. So if the people decides to move, right, to another country or wherever it is, that would be home.
Yes.
That would be home. It's just like church.
Yes.
Church
True.
is not the building,
Yes.
but the people.
Yes. Now you find
in-
people that are not comfortable going to praise God elsewhere because they are so married to that
Yeah.
building.
So in the olden days, like with in the Bible, these guys didn't have a building. They didn't have a building. They used to they met at people's homes, to preach, to fellowship, and also under trees. Remember, at that time they couldn't also meet because they were being slaughtered, if I might put it that way. So yeah, as you said, like people are actually married to the buildings itself, and status comes in play, forgetting about the people who makes up the home or makes up the church.
Actually, I'm gonna be a bit personal now.
Be personal, bro.
A lot of times, people say, because I'm very good at reading the room, right? And I know how to apply myself based on whatever it is that I was able to gather upon my read. Now, one of the things that I've realized about my hometown, the people that I actually grew up with, right, and remained back home, are just no longer the same, right? They're not those people that I grew up with, or the people that I'm used to, right? They're now different, and some of them are even like doing like evil things, like they're criminals, right? To the point that it's gonna be very hard for you to resonate with their newfound life, right? But then we're still expected to remain the same. We're still expected to treat those people the same, right? Whenever now you apply a different filter, it's a problem, right? And one of the things that, and this is something that I always tell people when I'm home, I stay home. I do not want to go anywhere else, because all of those places, right, that we used to go to, once upon a time, they were safe, but now they're no longer safe, right? Now I don't want to go to those places. I would rather stay here at home, because at least here I can control everything, right? I govern my own decisions and my everything, basically, and how I carry myself. There, in those settings, it's going to be very difficult, because they are hot-headed. Anything could be a fight. Why are you looking at me that way instead of this way? And someone wants to fight you for no apparent reason, because like basically like you've done well for yourself, you've taken good decisions and stuff like that. Anyways, that was a detour. Now here's the other thing about home, as well as with older people. Older people have a tendency of looking at you and then deciding without knowing, without any known evidence, deciding how much money you have, how much money you earn, and what you should be doing with that money. No evidence, nothing. And the funny thing is, all things considered, they never think about where you are, how much bills you pay, how much some of the things that they see cost, what it takes to actually have those things. What they see is money, money, money. So you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, you need to be. So how do you get to a point where you make it understandable for those people that may not understand? Some of them have never been to the places that we occupy now, so they have limited understanding of what's actually going on. So when they see us, they see money. There are people that won't even ask about your personal well-being. How are you doing? Right? Are you good? Are you fine? Right? But they will expect you to do something for them. And someone said something, like to me, and like I found it's very powerful, but it's also very sad. He said to me, it's a very older person, said to me, you must always remember this. When you are flying high, the family will be the first to try and cut your wings so that you fly closer to them, to where they are. And if you really think about it, most of the time, it is like that. And it may not be something they're fully aware of. They may be oblivious. The intentions may be very, very pure, right? But they may not understand that they're actually cutting your wings from actually flying further up. And for me, like, I also believe in the concept of you have to be bigger than just you and your family if you want to contribute towards the world. And some of the things may not, I'm very good with making unpopular decisions in life. And for some of the people out there that may be like faced with such things, like some of the challenges that we face as African people, be selfish. Think about yourself. That would be my advice when it comes to home, because anything and anywhere I build, that's their home for me, my family, and my parents. It's their home as well. It's not mine only. It's their home.
I would think that it would be like wise in to some extent that you relocated into the bigger city from a smaller town.
Yeah.
Where you have access to so many things. My thinking would be everybody relocate, because now you've gotten to a point where you're like, okay, I've explored.
100.
I know what's where, who's who, how safe it is, and once I've established myself, well, it depends obviously, but let's say that you've established yourself in a way that you can have like a nice 3-4 bedroom place, then you could bring the people over, because then what happens is then from there the next generation that's following you has a better platform to make it, instead of now having to go back there, build, do whatever development.
The
and
ancestors are far from us.
But look at this.
So if I move to Joburg and build here instead of like EC, then I'm creating a distance between myself and the ancestors.
But look at this. If we're speaking about the elderly people, right? And we look at back then in Germany, people had homes and they were forcefully removed from their homes. It happened here in South Africa as well. So now, because of and people made it their homes in certain areas, but they were evicted and they left and they were set there to go and settle somewhere else, and that's where they remained. I think like over that years they've remained. Has anything improved? You get what I'm saying?
I don't understand.
No, I'm saying like if so so you've been removed and you're now at a certain place, right? At a certain place, they put you in a certain place. Has anything improved in terms of you being there for those 30 years? Because I mean, like, let's say if nothing is happening in this area for me,
Yeah.
right? Why would I still stay here? Why would I still want to make this home for me? You get what I'm saying?
Good point, actually. And what about the people that actually had endured the worst experiences
Yes.
in
So
that
so
place?
you'll find in communities, you'll find in communities your a person's brother, sister, uncle, whatever has been murdered in the
Yes,
community.
in the community, yes.
The sister has been raped in the community.
Mm.
You've been robbed in the
the
community.
community.
They broke into your house in the community.
Yes.
There's jealousy and envy in the
In the
community. You're trying to get out of the community. You're trying your level best to work hard for you to get out. But then there's just this bitterness and everything with your surroundings, like the people in your community. You get what I'm saying? And you know, so why wouldn't you want to escape from that if you had the tools? Or you get what I'm saying?
So you're saying that we are the enemy of our own development.
Yeah.
And imagination.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you could imagine yourself, you could be in a dire situation, right? And you could imagine yourself being somewhere else, somewhere different, right? But as a result, because of societal confinements, you could find yourself perpetuating what has been written or what has been set in stone before you. All for what?
Yeah.
For the sake of the community.
For an image.
Or for an image, or to please family, basically. Because remember, you must also understand that we've got immediate family and then we've got extended family. You could have like members of your own immediate family saying that, okay, we don't mind if you take us to Dubai, right? And then everyone else thinking, well, now you are breaking away from the family and you're no longer going to be part of the family. Like, you're breaking the family dynamic, because now, like, how are we going to access you? Basically, we're going to be like,
Access you for what?
yeah, it's almost like you are going
No,
to a
I
different
understand
stratosphere
that.
altogether.
No, but I understand that. But access you for what? So we need to understand that access
is the
part.
ulterior motives. Is it
Yes.
about like what I'm gonna gain from you, or is it just to say, you know, I want to sit and chat with you? You know, it's been a long time, and you know,
I wanna monitor your progress. I wanna see like how far you can
You
go.
have to be in front of me so that I can see all these things, so that I know exactly what's happening in your life, or what is
These are some of the questions that can never be answered. But it all comes down to one thing, right? And this is my problem. This is one of my biggest problems. Whenever we cannot answer things as African people, we always say, this is what our ancestors want.
Is it that, or is it that?
Which is why I'm asking, like, do our ancestors want what's best for us or for them?
So what I want to know on that note, right? And I want to take it away a bit off, but it's bringing it back at the same time.
Sure.
So you get married now. You start a family.
Yes.
And the wife that you had chosen is not from the same home
That's
that you're referring to.
That's a good point.
And I'm talking about EC in this example. So the rules and regulations that you are governed by in your family are not the same rules and regulations that your wife is familiar with. And you have this obligation, because remember now, this is a new family. You have your family that you grown into, or you were brought up with, and now you have a new family that you had established as you have gotten to your adult life.
Yes.
And you have children, so you are obligated now to seek their, or make sure that, you know, their well-being is taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So now you get the phone call. Zingwe, we saw your Instagram post. You're driving this nice car, but the home is not built yet. You need to come back. We need to talk about this thing. And at this point, you're now not, you know, sure about what does this talk mean. So you get there and it's like, hey, bro, we need the money. Doesn't that also put a bit of a clash in your newly formed
It does.
family?
It's a big contrast.
And isn't that reasonable?
And such a scenario has a very big potential of actually messing up your newfound family.
Divorce rates spikes up.
All of that. So one of the reasons why like most relationships actually don't work out, it's because
Preach,
of,
Dr. Phil.
it's because it's because of like family. Nobody wants to confront that reality or that truth. You have, and like, by the way, we have ancestors that actually want us to take certain wives, right? They're not here. That's their wish. Again, like I would love to get to a point where I can have this conversation with someone that's not going to always just say, you cannot question. You just have to follow. I want someone that's going to be so open-minded about this, and then we can talk. It's a very free, there's no attack on anyone, right? Help me as I seek to understand how this actually works, right? Because for me, like as a family, you should never impose your wishes upon someone, whether you are alive or you are dead. If X has chosen to build a family with someone that you may, or that may not be to your liking, it's not your place to come and influence him to, this is how we do things here in our culture. That's going to create, again, X is going to end up following the culture, right? Marrying someone that X doesn't probably like, right? And there are so many differences in this relationship, and you just cannot understand why it's not working. While your family got you into it in the first place, not you, right? Now you find yourself being in a relationship, right? Just, or in a marriage, just for the sake of your family or your parents. How's that fair?
Yeah, I don't personally think it's fair.
Yeah. Right, gents.
Yeah, man, like just in closing, I just think also like bringing it back to home, right? As when we opened, home is love. It's where you are most loved and where you feel love, you know, and that could be anywhere. It's not a fixed place. It's not a destination. It's a journey. That's for me home, because this is my home, but tomorrow I could choose another place where I want it to be my home, and it could be somewhere else. So yeah, it's been a very good open-ended discussion, gentlemen.
Have you also heard, like, also in closing, sorry, have you also heard, like, let's say if you have like someone you grew up with, or a neighbor who always visited at your place, and you know they'll always say, make yourself at home.
Yeah.
And you'll always find that person coming over to your place to visit, and they'll always say, no, that's my home. Why is it so? Because of the people
Yes.
that accepted
And also,
this person with open arms, you know, and made them feel comfortable in that space.
yes. And also, just to your point, have you ever been to a place that wasn't your actual home,
Yeah.
but that place made you feel more at home than your actual home?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not down to where you were born or where you grew up. It's how people around make you feel, or people occupying that home make you feel. So that's what makes home home.
Yeah. Thanks, gents.
Thanks, gentlemen. Maurice?
Guys, I'd like to just say peace,
Peace.
keep well, and catch you on the next one.